Good morning, everybody. I speak to you from a very misty dawn here in the eastern lowveld of South Africa. The temperature is about 17 degrees Celsius. That's about 65 degrees Fahrenheit. My name is James Henry, and as you can see, I am emerging from the mists where I have been spending the night underneath this glorious tree. That is not in fact true. I did not spend the night underneath that glorious tree. I spent it in my bed, which is, I hope, where most of you have spent the night. Sebastian is on camera this morning. Hello, Sebastian. There we are. And on the other vehicle, we have got Brent Leo Smith being filmed by David, and out on foot, Steve, and he is being filmed by Willem Doornbraak and secured by the inimitable and magnificent Herbert Koza. Of course, you are the most magnificent part of what we do here, so please talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live or the chat stream on YouTube. Our plan today is to not get lost in the mist. I apologize for the split infinitive there, but these days apparently that's okay. And then to go down towards the south and see if we can't find Thandi and Kalamba. And while we're doing that, well, we're hoping for some magnificent landscape shots of the sun coming up through this rather eerie mist. I know that Brent is looking for a male leopard at the moment that he heard calling out of this mist, which I think will be fascinating. We were hoping, rather than to have me wandering out of the darkness of this cloud, rather to have a cat or something, but I'm afraid you had to make do with me. Marvellous. Let us continue on our merry way. In the meantime, let us go across to Stivovo, who is also in this rather eerie dawn.
Good morning, welcome. My name is indeed Steve Falconbridge, and I'm joined by VM on camera, and we're out on bushwalk. We've just emerged from camp because it is still very dark and very gloomy. You can see the moisture or the mist in the atmosphere. You can barely even see the wildebeest over there, even though wildebeest is on the camera. We've got some wildebeest in the mist, and as we walked out of camp, Herbie's already spotted the tracks of a female leopard, busy communicating with them, with Brent, seeing if we can maybe speed up the process of finding whoever this might be. But the tracks came right out of our camp, which is very exciting. Please don't forget to send through your questions and comments, hashtag Safari Live, or follow us on the YouTube stream. Let us know what you'd like to see this morning. Here is Brent himself with Davy. Misty days, consulting detective. I don't know how they feel about these days, but what I do know is that the grass is very, very wet. It's very, very wet, so these animals don't need to physically go and drink. There's lots of moisture in the vegetation, so they're just enjoying soaking up the moisture off of the vegetation, and it's actually quite a nice day for them. It's a bit gloomy. They probably can't see as well as they can on a normal day, but it's nice and cool. Bodes for very, very nice morning activity, so we're very, very excited. Brent is just going off there. We're going to see if we can quickly have a chat with him. There's another vehicle that's arrived. Everyone's getting excited and starting out this morning. Good morning, folks. What are you thinking, Brent? Okay. So Brent reckons the tracks we got here. He heard audio when we heard a leopard calling from around here at about 5 o'clock. So Herbie, where are we going to go? This is decision time. Left or right? Okay, looks like we're going to go left. We're going to walk down towards Vuetela Dam. The guests are now out of the lodge. That's fine. We can walk in front of the lodge. So let's go see what we can find. There could be lions on the cards. There could be male leopards. There could be female leopards. If anything, there's going to be some grass and insects to talk about. And it's my first time on the cycle working with wildebeest. So I'm very, very excited. So we are going to go very far away from me all the way to this man right over here.
We haven't gone far at all, as you can see. We're right next to each other. We're having our morning meeting, and it's always nice to start morning meeting on some fresh tracks. And those tracks are heading down towards the dam, although I don't think any of you would have seen the leopard on the damn cam in this mist this morning, so hopefully she might be still around. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and of course, on camera, I have, wearing his gym gloves, because he's a gym bunny, Dangerous Dave, the dimpled dish. Okay, so Herbie and Stephen are going to go straight down here, where the... Oh, sorry, Game Drive radio's going mad. I didn't hear that, sorry Bex. So we're going to go check round down towards the dam camp. Did anyone spot a leopard through the mist this morning? No gorillas in the mist here in southern Africa, but we do have leopards, lions, and I suppose a nice dark thing in the mist is the wildebeest. Hello, Gnus. I really do love these misty mornings. Cameramen, not so much, because it messes up their lens. Now they should start the rut in earnest shortly. Hasn't quite started in full swing just yet. Now we're listening carefully for any alarm calls. I think this leopard might be very, very close. Oh, I do love these misty mornings. Beautiful. Yes, Rebecca, you are correct. It is very similar to the Natal Midlands, except the Natal Midlands, where I went to school and Scott went to school. Who else went to school in the Natal Midlands? Not sure. James worked as a stooge. A stooge is a student sort of coach. Anyway, James coached Scott and my little brother at school. Yes, so the Natal Midlands gets this mist on a far more regular basis. However, at this time of the year in the Lowveld, it's not uncommon to have mist in the early mornings, and as we move into the winter months. And so we need to go quite slowly and carefully to make sure that we don't miss any tracks. So those wildebeest we've just seen here in Quarantine Nandini, they do not have a major migration. They have local seasonal movements. So the migration up in Kenya and Tanzania is in full swing. But then again, it never really stops. It's a constant cycle of the animals moving. So yes, they are migrating, as they do for most of the year. And Nandini, I'm wondering, can you tell me about your name handle? Because a Nandini in French is a very cool little critter, which is called an African palm civet. I don't know if anyone knew that. Nandini is an African palm civet in French. I'll see if I can find you a picture of one a little later. But a Nandini is an African palm civet. And I used to see them hunting bush babies quite frequently when I was living up in Gabon. So Herbie and Steve are on the tracks parallel to us. What we're doing is we're looping ahead of them. So if we can find some tracks ahead, we can cut off the time that they have to follow track for track. So we're working as a team together with Bushwalk at the moment, trying to find out where this kitty cat went. I'm pretty sure it's Hyena, but always pays to double check. Hyena. I can hear the Franklin alarm calling at Bushwalk. That, however, looks to be still Hyena. Now, I've got a feeling James drove this way this morning. I can see his tracks here. Let's see if maybe he's already ahead of us on these tracks.
I don't think I'm on any tracks unless I'm missing them entirely, which is not impossible. We are driving down towards the valley of the great Umlawamati drainage. And as you can see, it is getting even more misty and even more eerie down here. Ooh. Anyway, we're now around about where we were searching for Tundi yesterday. Annie, yes, I suppose it does. You say, does the moisture in the air affect an animal's sense of smell? I would imagine that the lack of movement in the air makes it more difficult for animals to smell things. I would also imagine that the moisture probably dampens down any smell, and it makes it quite difficult for the animals to smell. There is certainly a very pleasant smell in the air, but it's one of a sort of, you can smell mist basically, you can smell almost a sort of petrichor type smell of soil and water, and it seems to be masking most other smells. And it is wonderful to drive through. I'll see if I can find you an example, just to find how these spider webs have caught the mist as it's floated past them. And you see on a morning like this just how many spiders there are everywhere. This is not a morning for the arachnophobic. I'll try and find you a good example of a whole lot. Well, here's one. There's one. There are a few in this little dead bush here. You see it there, Seb? Yeah. It's a tropical tent web spider, and then there's also an orb web. There we go. And you can see how it has caught this low-hanging cloud. And I'm sure Mrs. Tent Web Spider is none too pleased that the stickiness of her web is being, well, reduced by this floating autumnal mist. Let's have a listen and see what we can hear. Obviously the Franklins. There's also Birchall's cuckoo going. There's quite a lot going on actually. Doves, Franklins, a couple of robins, hornbills, obviously. I always like to liken the dawn chorus to an orchestra, with the crested Franklins being the brass section, or the Franklins, all of the Franklins being the different pieces of the brass section. They're always the biggest section in this orchestra. The hornbills, the woodwinds, or the clarinets specifically. This is stunning. Thank you, Linda. You say you always love my bird calls. Well, that's very kind of you to say, Linda. I'm not sure they're quite as good as the actual bird calls. Gorgeous. Alrighty, let us continue. So this is where we walked yesterday afternoon. This is where Taylor drove around looking for Tundi and her cub. And yesterday Brent had her, and Taylor had her, in this little kind of, it's a tributary of the great Umluamati, raging torrent that it is. And so we'll see if the magnificent lady and her baby are around here. It's almost like doing a night drive because you can't actually see anything. You drive very slowly and carefully. Snazzy, you say, do the leopards like the mist? And that you assume the elephants and hippos do. Snazzy, I'm not sure. I don't think the leopards would necessarily like this. No, I think it makes it difficult for them to see. It's not like darkness which gives them an advantage. You know, sort of reduced visibility means it's even more difficult for them to see in the long grass than it is normally. I don't think elephants and hippos necessarily like it either. I think it must make it fairly eerie. They like to see what's coming at them. They like to be able to smell and hear what's coming at them. And I think the mist makes all three of those senses slightly dulled. So no, I don't think any animal out here particularly likes it. Except us, we like it. It's quite fun. It wouldn't be fun for the whole day though. But it is why we're driving very, very carefully. Because we could easily miss something with the reduced visibility. Oh, there's an impala. Let's ask him how he feels about the mist. Be brave, impala. Stand still. No, not very brave at all. I mean, you can imagine for this territorial male, quite difficult for him to see what's going on. There could be a leopard behind every bush, and coming out of every little patch of mist between the bushes. And so he disappears. And Annie, your first question was about sight, and whether, at least smell, and whether or not this mist affects animals' sense of smell. And now you're asking about their hearing. Yes, I think it definitely does affect their hearing. Well, not their hearing. It affects the way sound travels, though. And I think sound, much like it's difficult to hear somebody speaking under the water, would definitely be reduced moving through, or certainly hampered by moving through mist like this. So the sound waves in the range that we find audible, quite difficult to pick up, I think, in this sort of mist. And likewise smell, at least sight. Obviously sight. Sight is the most obvious one that's dulled for us, given that our noses and ears are relatively poor. Alrighty, let's go back to Stivovo and find out if he's got some tracks, and if he does, where on earth they're going.
We don't have any tracks yet. We've got tracks of the male lions from 2 days ago. We just seen tracks of Tingana from yesterday, but those are all old tracks, so we're hoping to find something fresh, and then we'll follow up on that. The tracks of a female leopard that came from our camp have just vanished, so we're doing a bit of a loop. There are other vehicles out. They're also having a little look around. Nothing yet has materialized, but we're going to keep going for the next hour or so at least, trying to see if we can get any fresh tracks. Then we're going to spend some time following them. The grass is wet. It is rank. The chances of leopards moving in this, if they are moving, they're probably going to be going, as we've seen with Hosana before and Shadulu, from termite mound to termite mound, up in trees, looking down on their quarry. They don't want to get too wet. And look how wet my leg is already. Karen, I don't know if termites like the mist, but when there's rainfall, the rainfall moistens the ground and they come out to breed. But sorry about that. But when it is misty like this, it's preventing the sun from coming down. So you probably still find termites busy being active, but the only problem is that they are ectothermic. There's no temperature. It's quite cool, and down on the ground where there's all this moisture, it's very, very cool. I haven't seen any insects active yet. They need a little bit of sort of warmth in their day to get them moving. So if they are around and active, I mean, here's some activity of no, that's not termites. So if we find some termites, we'll definitely show you to them, but there's no warmth. It's still very, very cold on the ground. So if they are around, they'll be moving very, very slowly. As the warmth starts to warm up, they'll start moving a little bit more deliberately in their never-ending quest for cellulose and organic matter. It's a beautiful morning. Temperatures are fantastic. We did consider leaving our jackets on for about 10-second deliberation, and then Wildebeest and I both decided let's bite the bullet and leave them back at camp. It's not going to rain. Probably one of the most stunning mornings yet, Wilde, of the season. This is the staging ground of summer transition into winter. What I feel like we're seeing now is we're seeing more of a summer-winter gradient. We're not really seeing the spring and the autumn. They're kind of merging together. We used to have this really long extended period of autumn, long extended period of spring. Now they seem to be merging together, and these are very nice misty. I mean, look at that. Beautiful misty mornings are very characteristic of that transition from the cool evenings into the warmer sort of mornings as the temperature changes, that condensation. Okay, so let's go back over to Brent, who's going to find out, I believe, where Nandini is from.
Well, hello. Well, here we go. For those of you who don't know what an African... Oh, no, I've pushed a button. Sorry, guys. Silly me. Dave, zooming in on a dashboard. Okay, that's what an African palm civet looks like. So you can see the civet-like face, but they do not occur in southern Africa. However, Nandini is originally from Kenya, where they do occur. They occur... There's Franklin making a bit of noise there. We'll go check on it and check at the old hyena den for good measure. But there we go. So that's the distribution of the African palm civet. There's Kenya. So on the western sides of Kenya, on the wetter side of Kenya, staying away from the arid north, through Tanzania, Malawi, and into the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe. So Nandinis do occur in Kenya, but they're called African palm civets. Of course, the name comes from the fact that they feed off raffia palms. So there's a very... Well, I'm sure a lot of you know about some of the environmental issues palm oil causes, and I'm not sure if most of you knew that most of the palm oils, the plantations in Asia and all over the place, are African palms. So the palms are indigenous to Africa, and you've got specific species that are very fond of them. Palm nut vultures, African palm civet, all feed off the fruits of those palms that are used to make palm oil. Yes, Rebecca. So Rebecca, Batman, myself and Jamie did a trip to Uganda where we saw a lot of palm nut vultures. Rebecca, however, could not say palm nut vulture. Oh, sorry. So Rebecca called them Parmalot vultures. I can't even remember what Parmalot is. Do you remember, Dave? I think it's a dairy brand. I think you're right. So there's tracks of male leopard cross into Buffelshoek. Now I just want to go check on the hyena den quickly. We haven't checked this one. I can see no one's checked this one from the tracks on the road in quite a while. And also it is quite a popular thoroughfare for the leopards when they come through this area, is to move past the old hyena den and up onto Mvubu Road. We've got no tracks on Mvubu Road so far, so maybe we'll find some hyenas or a leopard. There we go. Here's the big path they like to use. Oof, the ground is very, very hard at the moment. Warthog tracks. Maybe the warthogs are using the hyena den at the moment. Okay, this was definitely one of my favourite den sites amongst the Timberchi thicket. The ground is still very hard from the rain we've had. The mist doesn't really play too much of effect on the hardness of the ground. Actually, sometimes while tracking, mist can help a little bit. As you can see, it's a little wet edges, and that makes them a bit darker. Ooh, let's have a look here quickly. It does look like something's been using it, but I don't know. Okay. Something's been digging here. I'm just going to have a quick look. This could be very exciting. Something has been digging at the den. And as I say, it could very easily be warthogs. There are quite a lot of warthog tracks around. I'm not seeing a lot of hyena tracks. But it could be that one female has decided to move in while she's got young cubs. No fresh diggings. You never want to stand in front in case a warthog comes barreling out. Always want to check from above. A hyena has been here. Well, let me turn. Hyena's been here quite recently, but a day or 2 or 3 ago, and the tracks go right into the burrow. But they're not fresh. So there might be a pregnant female who's looking for a spot to give birth. So I think we should definitely check this den again later in the week, because there's a hyena track going right underneath. Now, pregnant hyenas. A lot of people think they can spot a pregnant hyena. And to all of you who think you can, I say nonsense. So I'll give you a little bit of information. So your average hyena cub is born weighing about 1.5 kilograms. And as a normal rule, there were always 2 born. And of course, infanticide or Cain-Abel syndrome takes place. And if they're of the same sex, one of those cubs will be killed. So, however, a hyena can eat 18 kilograms in a single sitting of meat. So even after 22 years, Michigan State University say it's impossible to tell whether a hyena is pregnant or it's got a food baby of 3 kgs. So unless they've already given birth and you can see suckle marks and lactation or sign of lactation before they give birth, it is pretty much speculation and guesswork. It is near impossible to tell when a female hyena is pregnant. So whether she's got a 3 kg baby belly or a 3 kg food belly. Now, strangely enough, as I said, warthogs have been around here as well, and pangolin, hyena and warthog often share den sites. And they don't normally do that when the warthog's got young babies, but once they're adults, hyena can actually share den sites with warthog. They'll use one section of the den, hyenas will use the other, as well as sharing. Both of them will also share with porcupine. I've seen it on numerous occasions, hyena and warthog sharing den, and hyena and porcupine, or warthog and porcupine all sharing dens. So normally, if they've got small babies, of course the hyenas are complete opportunists and will try grab a little one, but once there's adult warthogs around, it's not uncommon to actually have them sharing a den site. But that's quite positive that the tracks go right the way in. It means there possibly is a female who's getting ready to drop, and therefore she's checking a lot of different den sites. But as in terms of telling whether she's pregnant or not, so after 22 years of researching hyenas, Michigan State University claim it is what I've always believed, that it is impossible to tell. Okay, oof, the sun is starting to give that awesome airy light. No, Rebecca, it is not like I didn't know I was pregnant show where they pop out a baby. The hyenas are quite well aware that they are pregnant. However, us human beings are unable to tell when they are. I think that show... Rebecca says she thinks the human beings on the show also think that she thinks that they know, but they just don't want to tell their families. Well, Rebecca, I'll take your word for it. I generally tend to avoid any show like that. It sounds like absolute torture, watching something like that. And you know what? You will never get that 50 minutes or 60 minutes or however long that show is back in your life. So just think about that the next time you watch shows like that, Rebecca. Okay, we're going to keep scouring this area and maybe do a loop around to see if we can find those female leopard tracks. Let's go see how James's search is going.
Well, my search for anything with a heartbeat's not going particularly well, but my search for the sun has borne some fruit. Isn't that not very pretty indeed? Looks like a sort of tangerine growing up there. It's very gorgeous. I might be taking an illegal picture, in case you're wondering. So naughty. Wowee. Trying to decide what that looks like. And I suppose what it looks like is not so much a fruit, but some sort of orange lozenge. Well, of course, it isn't an orange lozenge at all, is it, Sebastian? It's a great ball of nuclear fusion. Stunning. Well, this is not tempted to move at all from here. We have heard and seen no further sign of any leopard. So I think we'll just carry on going the way we're going. And let's just sit here for a minute, enjoy this gorgeous sunrise. Well, of course the sun came up about half an hour ago, but it's just poking through now. And just see if we don't hear something that might indicate the presence of a leopard. Perhaps the crunch of some bones. You hear the clarinets and the trumpets still going. Many of you commenting that this is James and the giant peach. Well, I suppose that's actually quite an effective analogy. That is a giant peach-coloured object, and my name is James. I remember quite enjoying that book. I think probably mainly because it had my name in it. I was still under the impression back then that James was quite a rare name as opposed to fairly bog common as it is. Not that it isn't a good name. It is a good name. But it's not as unusual as Fochabus, for example. All right, let's go across to Stivovo, who has managed to find the same sun, astoundingly. How he did that, I don't know, looking at it through a gossamer lens.
The same sun just happened to be in the same sky, in the same place, just from a different angle. The wildebeest has obviously managed to find a beautiful position behind a very small branch with a spider web. How marvelous is that? Everything is moist and wet this morning, and as the sun approaches or rises, we're going to get even mistier for the first probably 15-20 minutes as the heat warms up the atmospheric air above and pushes the cold air down. You're going to get a bit denser mist for the first little while before it all clears up. But we're going to remain having wet feet for quite some time, I do believe. And that is the part of bushwalk. That is part of what we do in this time of year. Your shoes constantly get wet. YT viewer, we're not seeing many birds flying around, but they are calling. They are misty. They are wet, so they are doing their territorial call. They are grooming. They're preening. They're cleaning themselves. It's like going and having a bath and then flying back and preening. They're able to do that now on their own without any movement, so they don't have to fly away. But they are flying away. I don't think it'll hit them. They just have to flick. It's not that wet. It's just a bit of mist. So it's better than with rain. After rainfall, they take half an hour or so to dry and to get all the oil back on their feathers. But right now I think it's perfect. Perfect for the birds. The choruses are calling, and it's not easy to pick up on my mic the bird calls here. I'm just going to pop out here again. Herbie said there was a marvelous track on the road. See if we can find it. There we go. Very, very nice tracks here. Let me just come on the other side. You can clearly see these lines in the sand. Can you see that? Beautiful little lines of the porcupine quills dragging on the bottom. Here is in fact his track. You can see the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and then the pads. Can you see that, folks? Oh, my books are getting very wet in my pocket. More so the quills, yeah, indeed. The track is not that obvious, but those quill drag in there, very, very easy. I'm going to show you the porcupine track real quick. I've shown you before, but it is awesome to see. Page 44. Obviously, it's in the rodent family. So if I put that there, and you have a look at the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and there's all these messy pads in the back. If we have a look here again, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and all those messy pads there. Here's the back of the pad here. You see it? I'll just draw it a little bit. And there's the pads. All those little proximal pads on the back foot. It's in the loose soil. Very characteristic for porcupine. What other animal will we confuse this with? The bottom of the foot just has all of those pads. Why exactly is difficult for me to tell you. But they are known as plantigrade animals, which means that they put down their entire sole of the foot. Honey badgers, humans, monkeys, as well as porcupine are called plantigrades. All of those pads are going down there. They don't have anything up on the wrist like you see with horses. They've got the sort of the cherry up here on the elbow, and then cats have also got one that's up here, and a lot of other animals got their dew claw. Plantigrade animals have got everything down on one plateau, if that makes sense. Plateau, excuse the pun. Oh, sorry, I did some very nice leg exercises yesterday. Need my stick to help me climb up again. What's that, Herbs? Okay, we're just listening, folks. He's listening to something in the distance. You can hear some impala alarm calling down in a little dry riverbed. So we're going to move through. Let's go catch up with him and see what exactly is going on. This time of year is very interesting with the impala alarm calling because they are rutting. So the males are actually running around and chasing the females like that. And if you're not paying attention, you can confuse the rutting with actual alarm calls. So the behavior that's surrounding that, very, very important. If you have impala alarm calling and it doesn't follow that horrible male, that very weird noise that they make, then it's a very good chance that it's alarm calling. There's now some Franklin alarm calling as well in the drainage. So this could be very exciting. This is kind of the general area where Thandi and her cub were last seen, Tlalamba and Thandi. I have not seen that beautiful cat. Here we go. This is much nicer track of the porcupine wildy. Let me just get that. Have a look here, folks. Here you can see the toes. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually see the nail marks very clearly now. Porcupines have very long nails for digging. And here's the back pads once again. And you see them all. 1, 2, all of them. It goes all the way around like that. So it's a marvelously large foot if you think about it. Yes, Anna-Marie, we don't see them that often. They're very secretive sort of animals. So now the one animal you might confuse this with is a honey badger. But a honey badger runs and they'll be on a line. So if you take 3 tracks of the honey badger, you should be able to put the stick through the middle. Have a look at how I've got 3 tracks of the porcupine. and they are not in a line. Honey badger would be here, but actually the honey badger's got such a long stride that it'll probably be 1, 2, and 3 over there. Porcupine is a small animal, and they shuffle, whereas a honey badger is this really sort of fast-moving animal. Very, very different in that design. Here you can't see the quills, so you could confuse this with porcupine, with a honey badger. Straight line. Very obvious that it is not a honey badger. So let's go to the fastest moving animal in the wilderness, Brent Leo Smith.
Steve's obviously a bit confused because we can ask the cameraman who is the fastest moving presenter, and unless they're wild dogs, it ain't me. I like to go very slowly. I don't like to miss anything while I'm out on drive. I barely ever go beyond the speed. Quickly across to James and a feathered friend.
Here we find ourselves with the mist, of course, and a very, very pleasing view of the African hawk eagle. And we're just around their nest, up, if you're familiar with the roads, on Central Road. They have a little nest around here. And we watched one of them fly off into the mist, and then this one is still sitting reveling in the rising sun, much as we are. Isn't that beautiful? I seem to be taking quite a few silent segments this morning, but it just seems to lend itself to that here. Also here, it sounds like an African goshawk, but I don't think it is. That's not, it's another bird pretending to be an African goshawk. It's a red-billed buffalo weaver all on its own. Shame. I'll show that to you shortly. Can you see how the light is now suddenly changing? It's going to get very bright very quickly now. We're going to see the disappearance of this mist. It's going to burn off. And I don't know about you, I'm not sure how good your speakers are, or indeed how good our microphones are for picking something like this up. But you might notice that the sounds are becoming a lot clearer. At the beginning of the morning it sounded a little bit like they were playing through mud. But now they should be becoming that much more clear, especially if you're listening through some decent earphones. Lavat, you're wondering about alarm calls. We've had a lot of discussion about alarm calls lately, and you say, do birds do it for themselves or for the benefit of other creatures? There is no creature out here that does anything for the benefit of another creature unless it can get some benefit for itself as well. None more so than the human being, of course. And that's a very cynical look at things. Please ignore my last statement. It is Monday morning, of course. But no, the birds alarm call for themselves, and then they have learned, of course, to interpret the calls of other birds that are alarm calling. Can we go back up to that tree there, Seb, if you don't mind?
Which one?
The middle one. There's a woodpecker there, and there are a whole lot of doves. Now, the woodpecker I will try and find for you. There's also a puffback. Okay, the very top one that you can see hopping, well, there's the dove. Mm-hmm. That's a green-spotted or emerald-spotted wood dove. And if you go straight up and slightly left from there, you will see a puffback. That's him. There's a puffback knocking about. They make a very interesting call that goes like this. Ooh, and there's a yellow-throated Pytilia. Is it Pytilia? No, Petronia. Just to the left of that, you can see just catching the light now. There we are. middle of frame, yellow-throated Petronia. How do I know that? I know that because of its very wide white eye stripe. So it's a sparrow species. It used to be known as the yellow-throated sparrow, which made sense, but now, of course, the ornithologists have decided that made far too much sense. It was much too easy to understand. And Carol, I was actually conned by one of these earlier this morning. You said, are there any mimicking birds here? Yes, there are. Drongos enjoy mimicking other birds. They're not very good imitators. A couple of the robin species are very good, and the Saboto lark is probably the best one. They make some excellent calls. You may have just heard the call there. Oh, top of the tree there, yeah. That's a female plum-coloured starling. Now they really shouldn't be here anymore. A straggler. Sorry, violet-backed starling they're now called. I keep referring to the new name and the old name when the new names are actually not very new at all anymore. Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? Sorry, that dove that I pointed out to you is not a green emerald spotted wood dove, it is a Cape turtle or ringneck dove. I do apologise. Every so often I tell a lie by mistake. I told a lie by mistake to the children the other day. I should never lie to children. I told them crocodiles were not found in North and South America, and that you found alligators in both places. And the viewer very kindly and very gently pointed out that I was talking utter nonsense. You do find a few crocodile species apparently in the Americas. And not only that, alligators are not found in South America. You get caimans there and a few crocodile species. You see the new bird that's just arrived below the dove there? It's an orange-breasted bush shrike. Two of them. You see them there, Seb? They're hopping there, just flown up there. Just below, you're almost there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of just underneath. Yeah, underneath the dove.
Yeah,
we just go underneath that. There we go. Flying off to the right. Right a bit down. You should see a flash of orange there. Middle of screen.
Okay. Yeah,
that's him. Orange-breasted bush shrike. That's the call they make. And I tell you, we don't often see them because they're very secretive. Wondering, yes, I was thinking I'd misidentified the dove again, but I haven't. Right, I believe that Brent has been caught mid-thought, as it were, and I hate to do that to Brent, so let's go back and hear his final thought.
Well, you can see, apart from my brain, which is always rushing, I'm rushing nowhere at the moment. So we got a report that was tracks of a pride of lions heading towards the east from the west. So we're doing a bit of a boundary patrol. It could be the Nkumas, it could be the Sticks, it could be another pride displaced by the movements of the Birminghams and the Evokers. What are you shouting at, squirrel? A very upset squirrel. There's the squirrel, you see it, Dave? So in the oh, sorry, Aubrey's just calling me. Go ahead. Okay, copy that. Oh, it sounds like there's more lion tracks coming from the south. And that's why it's a good thing to do a boundary patrol today. It's always just worth, in this area, having a good look what the squirrels are shouting at, because this is Shidulu country. Oh, elephants! I haven't seen elephants in so long. I can hear them shouting down the road in the mist. Or they're still in the west. Let's go find out. Oof, that was a nice sound. Just haven't heard Ellie's for so long. Just making sure there's no leopard anywhere in this long grass. I think Taylor had some Ellies yesterday. But I haven't seen an elephant herd, which that sounds like, in quite a long time. Are those lions crossing the road in front of us as well? What is going on down there? Where are my binoculars, Dave? David, what did you do with my binoculars? Something crossed near that car. Difficult to see in the mist. Okay, let's just go have a look. Hold on. Whee! Oh, it's cold when you go a bit faster. Elephants sounded like they were down here somewhere, screaming away. Oh, lots of cars rushing into this area. I don't know what's going on. I can't see any footprints. Oh, morning, morning. Minjan. Jim's Chitwa. Morning, everyone.
How are you doing, man?
Good, thanks. How's your morning going?
I like it, thanks.
Who's following up on those line tracks? Yeah.
No, Darby, Yabin, and Laz. They're between Mexuan, Mexuan Puza Spot, and One Eye Fan. There's Nyari in the block as well.
Okay, we had tracks of buffalo running north, but
Yeah, going into Yondell.
yeah. No, they kept going. Manuleti. Okay, cool. Cheers, guys.
Lucky, man.
I'll tell James you say hello, Dick.
Keep well, bro.
You too. Okay, so the tracks of those Ngormas are back up behind us. I just wonder, the elephants sounded like they were around here somewhere. It did sound like they were possibly still in Arathusa. Unfortunately for us. I'm going to keep my eyes open. Hopefully those Ellies start moving towards us. I might just stop up here for a little bit and listen while we do that. Let's go see how Steve's trapping about the African bush is going.
Okay, so we're still moving in the same direction. It's kind of the Milwaukee drainage system here with the sub-tributary coming in. After those alarm calls, we've continued moving down. We've now heard a baboon alarm calling that, whoa! Something like that. It's a little bit early in the morning. I don't think my voice is working quite well. We're going to head down. What have you spotted there, Herbs? These beautiful game paths are where we're looking for tracks. And you kind of follow. There we go. That's an old hyena track there. Head down into this drainage system. We know Tati Labs being through here. Nice and dense, easy to hide her cub, and also there's lots of food, prey items that come down. Sorry, Vildy. Let me get this for you. What's that? Yeah, that's from a wood borer over here. You can see the sawdust chips at the bottom there. There's some wood boring insect inside the wood here, busy breaking it down. You can actually this tree's dead. I'm not going to damage it, but they're breaking down living inside the wood, and that's what woodpeckers are generally looking for. It's a telltale sign of the sawdust on the floor. Quite an ability to break down wood. Okay, let's go down here. I'll just help you with this branch, Vildy. You must bear in mind, wildebeest has got a 2-meter mast on the back of his neck. Sorry about the break up there. It's possible because we're going down into the depression here. Wildebeest has got a very long aerial on the back. So thick, dense vegetation. Walking through is not ideal, but we do it anyway. So this is the river system, dry riverbed, one of the tributaries into the Mawati, coming from the north, heading down south towards the Mawati itself. It's a good place to search, a good place to look. As I was saying, lots of prey animals. This is perfect habitat for deka, nyala, kudu. They love moving through. I mean, look at this tall, moist grass. There's plenty of food and also plenty of cover for hiding a small cub away from an inquisitive male. Child of the universe, what an interesting question. Without man-made waterholes, things would probably look quite different. Because what essentially you get with waterholes is you get an accumulation of animals during a season when they wouldn't normally be there. To my knowledge, the Sabi Sands has got no natural permanent water, apart from 1 or 2 rivers that move through the middle. Now, from an ecological point of view, this doesn't happen anymore. It's long past that. From an ecological point of view, you essentially need to have a water point 30 kilometers apart with nothing in the middle to allow for the thick, dense vegetation to move through sort of moderate vegetation to open vegetation, then back again. That doesn't occur anymore. Throughout the Kruger Park, throughout all these areas, there are water points, very close proximity. So what it's led to is bush encroachment. We see a lot of bush encroachment. But along a drainage system like this, that's perfectly natural. That's a perfectly natural system. But it's the sort of more hilly areas, the areas that you'd expect to be a little bit more open with grass. They are a little bit more dense than they were before. But what that leads to is the need to do active bush clearing in reserves like this, to open it up to create the habitat for the wildebeest and the sable, as for the wildebeest and the zebra. But what we had here many, many years ago was a very high number of rare and endangered species. Sable antelope, Sabi, eland used to be in and out of these areas all the time. But because of the inclusion of water points, namely dams, that has led to animals like impala and buffalo staying in the area. But what that has led to is the predators moving in and staying there permanently. Predators like hyena, lion. These are animals that put their territories around permanent water. And the problem is with rare and endangered animals like sable, roan, Sabi, eland, is they like to leave their youngsters far away, and then they come all the way in and they drink. They're a very formidable animal to be killed by a lion or hyena. But their youngsters who are hiding far away, there's no such thing as far away anymore. The population has so gone down. Okay, well, we're just checking all these little pans and water points. These are all natural for this time of year. But while we keep doing that, let's go over to James. He's got a very specialized animal, a kudu.
It is a kudu. I'm not sure that it's very special compared with any other kudu, but it is very lovely. And it is in some gorgeous light here, being filmed by Sebastian Rambi. The sun just coming up behind it, beautifully backlighting our young kudu friend. He's not so young. That's a very mature male. I'd say at least 6 or 7 years old. Apparently our signal is not particularly strong in this area, so I'm going to go forward slightly. The rest of the herd is here, but if you do lose us suddenly, so it shall be. We'll just ooze forward slightly. There's a cow in there, disappearing. No, I don't think you'll see her. Can you see her there, Seb? Not really. There are a few of them. They are not born of enormous bravery, are the Kudu. Eclair, you say they are impressive horns. They are very impressive horns. The signal is going to get dodgy here, so we will keep trying. But if you cut away from us, I apologize in advance. Let's just keep trying. Keep trying. They've gone into this thick stuff here. There he is. You see him there, Seb? He's that very large antelope with the horns just over there. But he's also being particularly painful about where he stands. He seems to know that we want to film him. There. Magnificent creature, isn't he? And you can see why, of course, he is the emblem of the Kruger Park, and in fact of the entire National Parks Board. Now, what's he eating? He's eating leadwood, which for most creatures would be fairly full of tannins, but obviously this kudu can cope with them. Kudu's digestive system is, well, not uniquely, but certainly exceptionally designed to cope with the toxins in leaves, and it's why many grazers are unable to eat tree leaves. They don't have the digestive chemicals to deal with the defensive mechanisms that are in trees. That's actually a gymnosporia tree, which is, I mean, you wouldn't put that on your tongue and be able to keep it there. It would be so bitter. But for him, he doesn't mind.
How big is this kudu compared to something that we would know? Tracy?
Tracy, it depends what you know, I suppose. You say, how big is this kudu in comparison with something that you would know? Was that the question? Depends where you live, Tracy. I can't answer that question. You may live in downtown Detroit. You may live in the United States countryside. You may live in South America. I don't know where you are. Try and let me know, and then I'll give you an idea. I guess if you live in the United States, it's about the size of an elk. If you live in Canada, I guess it's probably also the size of an elk. It's actually probably the size of a reindeer. If you live in South America, I'm not really sure. Holly, you're wondering about the size of its antlers. Holly, it doesn't have antlers. Those are horns. The difference being that antlers, of course, are the things that grow on deer, and they will fall off every year. Those horns will not fall off every year. They're part of the skull. And all of the antelope out here, as opposed to deer, we don't have deer out here, all of the antelope are born of horns. So that all the males have got horns. Sometimes the females have got horns, but if one of them comes off or gets cracked in a fight or something like that, it will never come back again. And so those are horns, very distinct, of course, from antlers. Okay, let us continue. We're not too far from a waterhole here. How's the signal looking, Rebecca? Okay, let's see what happens. Seems to be okay. CJ, yes, but they'll slow down. You say, well, the kudu's horns continue to grow throughout its lifetime. Yes, they do. And in fact, you can age a kudu from its horns. Each twist each full twist takes 2 years, and that's why I would have said that kudu was probably about 7 years old. You know, in theory, male kudu don't live really beyond 8 years or so, and I suspect some of them do. And I think the horns probably stop not much after the size that they've got to on that one. Some shouting starlings around us. Beth, you say against predators, which antelope species is the bravest? Well, to compare them as such would be to say that some antelope species are a bit cowardly, which isn't the case, I think. I think that basically the bigger you are, the more chance you're going to have of standing your ground, which means that the smaller the antelope, the more likely it is to run away. The bigger the antelope, the more likely it is to stand and fight. Very few in the face of lions will stand and fight, however. They will almost always run. Buffalo being the noticeable exception. They aren't strictly speaking an antelope, but they are, of course, the biggest out here, and so they will turn and fight quite often. The rest will run. The rest will run as fast as they can. And those kudu horns, for example, almost completely useless for spearing a lion. I suppose the one antelope that does manage to spear lions from time to time, very seldom, and interestingly both male and female have horns, is the gemsbok or oryx. They've got long rapier horns that are very useful for skewering predators. But those kudu horns are used decoratively and for fighting amongst themselves. Their method of escape from predators is not fighting, it's running. So I don't think you could describe any of them as particularly brave, but to say that they're not brave is to assert that they're perhaps being cowardly, which I think would be very unfair. I don't think they're being cowardly at all. It's just the best way to survive. There's absolutely no honor in turning and facing a lion and then being eaten by it. Something about Brent and something about an elephant, hopefully they are together.
All the elephants went west, so unfortunately no elephants for us. All of them decided to go deeper to the west, but that doesn't mean there aren't other elephants around. Now, update on the Inkahumas. They're probably 100 meters from our western boundary at the moment. They've gone flat, but they might get up and move. So I've done the whole of Triple M, checking for any sign of Hokamuri. He was last seen in Arathusa last night, and I am hoping that he might have managed to sneak across that very busy Triple M, and someone's obliterated his tracks, and we're going to find his tracks here on Zoe's Road, where no one has driven yet this morning. And Shidulu, no sign of, and just nice little update in Kanyeni and Kaba, still well but far to the east. And I'm trying to think. Hasana was on Hoffman's last night, so he covered some serious distance since we saw him yesterday morning. So that's all the updates I have for you just at this very moment. Now, I'm hoping that while we are chatting and driving down the road, we are going to find some fresh tracks. Other than that, it's still a beautiful morning at Misty. You can see why the cameramen don't like the mist. I like the mist, but the cameramen have to become human windscreen wipers during the misty mornings. It's good for them, otherwise they just sit there and do nothing all day. Especially Dave. He just naps back there. Oh, it sounds like James is at Buffle's Hook. Can we see how many goslings have made it through the night?
Seven, I think the same number that there were yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's 7 there. Seb, are there 7 there?
I counted 7. Yeah.
Okay, Seb counted 7. I wonder one just popped out from underneath Mum's wing. I think that's why I was a bit confused. So they have lost one. I have asserted that the parents in this particular part of the world are the worst. In this at Buffelshoek Dam, these two gosling or goose parents are the worst in the world, because I've watched them have lots and lots of clutches and lose them all. But so far they seem to be being okay here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are there not 8 there? No. There are not. There are definitely only... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't count them.
There we go.
There are 8 there.
2, 3, 4,
No.
5, 6, 7.
7. There are 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes. We are still missing one. Well, I think that's a permanent state of affairs. Hello, shoplifter. You want to know which baby bird in the world looks most different from its parent? I'm 99% sure that nobody has ever quantified that, shoplifter. So you might like to put forward a research proposal, perhaps, to a funding institute, and see if you can't get them to fund you to travel around the world finding out which bird looks the most different from its parents when it comes out of its eggie. Most birds that are altricial, so in other words, birds unlike these geese, which are able to sort of move as soon as they're born. So anything that lives, a passerine bird that lives in a nest, like a weaver or a swallow or a starling, which are born completely naked and without, barely recognizable as birds, any of them look completely different from their parents. And I guess the ones that look the most like their parents are the precocial ones, like the lapwings. The goslings would be somewhere in between, but the lapwings can run as soon as they're born, and so I would say they look most like their parents, and anything that is born altricial in a nest does not look anything like its parents. Here, the most boring hippo in the world as well. VM refuses to film them completely because he says they are so boring. Sharon, you're wondering about the number of geese species here. Well, strictly speaking, we don't have any. In fact, we have one from time to time. Strictly speaking, apparently the Egyptian goose is a duck, not a goose. Why it's called a goose is a mystery. Only the ornithologists can pretend to answer. But strictly speaking, the spur-winged goose is actually the only goose that we'd get here. And I think the noticeable difference, of course, is the spur on the wing, and most goose species are not vegetarian like the ducks are. And of course, Egyptian geese are vegetarians for the most part, although some of them are a little bit like the vegetarians I know that are vegetarians, well, say 50% of the time, and then sometimes when they get the smell of bacon or lamb chops in their noses, they become unvegetarian and they say, I have an iron deficiency today, so I just need to have a little lamb chop. Who can blame them? I'm just trying to find you a picture of all the gooses and ducks that we get here. Geese and ducks. There they are. No, all those are all ducks, really. So it says here, the large, spur-winged and Egyptian geese overleaf differ from the geese of the northern hemisphere in having longer bills and legs, the African pygmy goose overleaf being our only representative of true geese. So not even the spur-winged goose is, I didn't know that, not even the spur-winged goose is in fact a goose, that vast thing here. I've seen it once at Djuma, flying around this very waterhole. There it is, the Egyptian goose, at least the spur-winged goose, and the Egyptian is just above it. And then let us find the pygmy, the only true example of a goose, which doesn't seem to be in this book. It is definitely in this book. Come on, where are you? Pygmy goose? There it is, the top. pygmy goose, identifiable by its small size. Okay, whoops, sorry about that, Seb. That wasn't a very good warning of me. Let us move on from here. I think we're going to give up on Djuma, go down towards Chitwa, get Sebastian's drone in the air, and see what we can spot from there. So as we move off, we are going to go across to Steve Vovo, who has not given up on Djuma, but he's walking, so he can't. Ha ha ha.
We have not given up. We are trying our best. The ground is very hard. We're going for sounds now. If we can hear Franklin's and more animals alarming. We've come across the Mawati. We're now on the other side, an area where I had Hosanna just the other night, that young male leopard. And this is an area Tandi really likes to spend her time. But the road and the ground is very hard to see any tracks. So we hope she's moving. If she's moving, ideally there'll be some form of an animal shouting at her. That is what we heard earlier. We've come this way, but everything has gone very, very quiet. This very still, misty morning. Rattling testicular calling. Yeah, they're just calling off here. Not a reliable alarm call though for a leopard. We're checking all the termite mounds, any elevated position, because it is very wet in the grass, as I said. Cats aren't going to be too comfortable moving through this moisture. It'll be, if a leopard charges us on foot, the best reaction is to stand still. You can see I'm now looking you straight in the eye. I would do this with a leopard. I wouldn't turn my shoulder, so I can still see you, but I'd look to the side, and I'd probably shout very loud. Hey! Something like that, maybe a bit louder. Don't squeal, don't scream, don't sound like a dying animal. Make a very forceful shout, but do not challenge it by looking in the eyes. And then when it backs away, it will back away, and you just walk backwards like I'm doing now. And if it comes again, you do exactly the same thing. You stand your ground. Slowly you get far enough away where it'll stop needing to actually physically charge you. But leopards only charge if it's on a kill or if it's got a cub. So it doesn't often happen. Often all you see is just the as the leopard disappears off into the vegetation. So you've got to be careful of leopards with cubs. And if they've got a kill, because they often don't want to give that up to us. You know, they see us as sometimes leopards will see us as competition for their food, because the Homo sapien, when we exploded onto the savannah, we started stealing food from cats before we knew how to hunt effectively. So they know us very well as a scavenger, and it is actually quite easy to chase animals off of a kill. But every now and again, they tell you, no. It's mine. And it comes with a whole lot of spit and claws and teeth. And being charged by a leopard is probably one of the most frightening experiences, because the noise that it makes comes from the chest as it runs. It hits the floor as well. And the claws and the teeth, and you could just see the saliva, and you'll never forget it. You'll never ever forget the experience. But the worst thing you can do is to turn your back and run away, because that could cause it to jump on your back. Okay, it would be exactly the same with a lion. Only difference is I would look at the lion in the eyes, because a lion, they're a social creature. They are all about eye contact. Leopards are a solitary creature. Eye contact is a challenge. You've probably seen Hosanna approaching Tingana many times. Tingana looks at him like this. He doesn't look at Hosanna in the eyes. He sits there and he growls. He doesn't look at Hosanna like this, because that is a direct challenge. But lions, you need to look a lion in the eye. And they reckon to become a man in Africa, to truly become a man, you need to be able to stand down and stare a male lion in the eye. And that is the true the passage to manhood in quite many cultures, quite a number of cultures in Africa. And it is quite something to do to be able to stand and look a lion in the eye that's charging down on you. pangolin. If a squirrel charges me, I'll just bat. I'm only joking. I'm sure you're only joking with your question, but squirrels don't charge. I've never been charged by a squirrel. Maybe if it was rabid, it would charge us, but there's not much chance of a squirrel causing us any harm. Beautiful, beautiful morning. It's lovely to be out on foot in these temperatures. We've got the bit of a digging here, Wildy. We spoke earlier about the porcupine. They're very sharp sort of claws. Porcupine make these very sort of keyhole type triangle shapes. Always a pile of dirt over here. Very easy. You can see he's dug it all in that direction. Honey badger digs like a dog. If any of you have got a Jack Russell or a dog on the beach, they dig in a circle. They dig a bit that way, and they dig a bit that way, dig a bit that way, and you end up with like a circle of dirt around. And the porcupine's obviously going in here for a tuber or a bulb, some root of some kind. Not sure whether he found it or not, but anyway, it seems like Brett's got some interesting information, and let's go over to him.
Now we can't see the leopard right now, and we're not sure which leopard it is, but we can see what she's stalking, and we don't want to move any closer as to disturb her. So apparently it's a female leopard. Okay, I'm just going to sneak a little bit further down the road. So Johan, who's found her, said he could see her, and it says it's okay to move now. So the impala hasn't quite spotted her yet, but might have spotted her, and that's why. Can you see her yet, Dave? Okay, she's around here somewhere. This is very exciting. I wonder which leopard it is. Johan's telling me to move further forward, and we'll see if we can spot her in the grass now. So apparently we should be able to see her from where we are now. Can you see anything, Dave? So in this little pathway here, Dave, Johan's saying it's a little bit to the right. Somewhere in there. So she's probably about 20-25 meters away from the impala. I'm just trying to see if we can spot her tail or a flick of an ear. We all know how good a leopard's camouflage can be. Okay, we still don't see her. I'm thinking I might go back a little bit to just maybe keep an eye on the impala. But Jan's coming, I'll just wait for him to come here, and then we can get a bit of a better idea where she is. Dave, it looks like we both need glasses today. Either going mad. You see the hornbills? They don't look like they've seen a leopard. Just sitting there. Hi, Jan. Yeah? I think we just can't see her from here. I'm going to come round behind you. Okay, let's just ease our way forward. So that impala hasn't started snorting yet. I'm just going to slide down. There she is. See her ears, Dave? There she is. Ah. It's all over. I think the impala can't see her, but he's just got that sixth sense that something's up. Who is that? Is that Tundi? Oh, so difficult to see through the grass. But unfortunately for her, I think the game is up. But as I say, I can just see the impala. I mean, he's snorting in general. Maybe he's just got the scent of her. He's not staring directly at her yet. And you see the impala, Dave? He's just to the left. And if you look through the trees there. Is that him there? No, that's a leaf. And he's where the weeping wattle is. There, he's behind there. Just behind there. But it doesn't look like she's given up just yet. This is very exciting. I think impala looks like it's taken off. I can't see it anymore. It's moving away. Now I can see the impala moving away. But again, it's snorting, but it's not staring directly at the leopard. Do you see the impala now, Dave? To the left of the Paltiforum. Oh no. A little bit to the right. No, there. I think it's just, there we go. You can just see a patch of impala. So it's still not 100% convinced because she hasn't moved a muscle since the first snort. Oh, I thought she'd been spotted by a go-away bird, but it's a African harrier hawk flying off there in the distance. Okay, we're just going to wait to see what plays out here. I think the hunt is up. There's a Birchill starling. We'll try get into a better position to see which leopard this is. And while we do that, James has got 3 little birds.
We did have 3, we now have 2, but I think the third might come back. Just a beautiful sighting here of little bee-eaters, preening and enjoying the fading mist and the morning sun. Oh, they are the most spectacular little birds. Aren't those colours special? Oh, that's just gorgeous. And there are actually 2 more in front of us. In fact, there are another 5 I can see around here. I'm just a little nervous to move in case these ones disappear. So have a good look at these, and then we'll try and see if we can see all the others. It's a massive flock. Well, massive flock. There are 5 of them. There are 2. There are another 2 in the bush in front, and another 2 in the bush behind. There's 6 of them. These are the closest ones. Let's just stay with these guys. Victoria, you say, oh my, I love these birds. I can't agree with you more. They are certainly some of my favourites. Let's see if he comes back. Now they're 3. Perfect. Oh, that's so special. This is the kind of thing you want a really long lens for if you're holding a camera. Which of course I'm not illegally. Oh, now consulting detective, you've asked a question I really don't know the answer to. You say, where have all the carmine bee-eaters been this year? Now, for those of you who don't know, carmine bee-eater is the sort of a reddish, pinkish and bluish version of this, slightly longer and bigger. And I wasn't around. Normally you'd see them sort of January, February time. I wasn't around January and February time. And so I don't know where they were, but it must have something to do with water and with drought in other parts of their range, perhaps. So I don't know where they were. There haven't been a lot of them around this area for a while, I would say. I certainly haven't seen a great number of them. We had some last year, a few, but it was never in great numbers. Rossen, you say, how big do these flocks get? They're normally in pairs, so I would have thought that this is 3 pairs, unless it is a family with a whole lot of babies. Now let's just confirm that. They're normally in couples, so maybe, let me go to my bird application, B for bee eater, and we shall read quickly. Thanks for that. Right, little bee eater. Locally common resident, yes, we know that. Nomadic in the non-breeding season, not gregarious, and usually found in pairs or small family groups. So yes, I think what we have here is a small family group. I suspect that it's parents and probably 4 chicks that have made it to almost adulthood. Ha! That was very special. Look, it's not a leopard hunting. But, you know, I was very entertained by it. Okay, we're on the southern boundary now of Djuma. Let us head down towards Chitwa Dam. While we do that, let us go back to Brent Leo Exciting and the leopard.
Well, I don't think that impala's seen her. I think he's still just smelt her. So I'm just trying to get us into a spot where we don't disturb, as well as being able to see the impala and the leopard. So far, I haven't quite managed to get there just yet. Trying not to make too much noise either. There's the impala. Now, the reason this impala is by itself, Wisteria, it's rutting season. And it is a male. So, he's been pushed out of the herd. That's why he's all on his own. I think he might have now actually... Yeah, now he's looking in the right spot. Before he was snorting in the wrong direction. See how he's moving closer to confirm what he thinks. Okay, the game is up. Let's get a bit closer. Now we don't have to be as careful as we were. So as I said earlier, it looked like he just smelt her rather than saw her. But now he's definitely spotted her. She might have moved, stood up. So now we can move in a bit closer and figure out who it is. Or has she done a disappearing act? Oh no, she's done a disappearing act. But the impala definitely looked like he spotted her. Oh dear. Where'd she go? Where's the impala looking? She must be down here, I think. Where's that impala, Dave? Can you see him? So she was lying right here. Let's just listen quickly, see if we can hear any birds or... The squirrels that side are going. Okay. So I think she's disappeared in here, and then her moving into these thickets here is probably what gave away her presence. You're a lucky boy. Now this is a particularly tough area to get in and out of. This little ravine here. And we can hear some squirrels down here. Ooh. That's a difficult spot. Okay. Just listen again for the squirrels. So just the impala. Okay, I'm going to have a closer look back to almost exactly where we last saw her. Let's have a look in here. She might have even... See, if I was her, I would have gone through here. Now, leopards have a core sort of home range and then a bigger home range, Carol. Tandi's at the moment is probably around 2,000 hectares, but she's only really utilizing about 800 of it. Oh dear, this is a difficult area. Now, don't think we're going to be able to drive down here. It's too steep. Now, of course, if we were like Steve and on foot, it would be much easier to get through here, but we're not. So let's go see where he's walking next.
What leopard have you found? We're assuming it's probably Shedulu female, but if it is Tandi, then we have been wasting our time here on the east. But we have not found any tracks. The one track we did find kind of head back again towards where we headed. We've come back towards Twin Dams, and now we're making our way towards Treehouse Dam. See if we can get any activity of anything coming through. So there's a block where Sana likes to spend time in. I know he was here yesterday. I don't know where he's gone to. As well as Tingana, the old Duke, obviously, is always around. And we have had Tandi here as well. So, go to the water. We've been checking all the dams and pans as we go. And that seems to be the way to go. Hopefully, Brett manages to get through that drainage depression. And if all else fails, we'll run all the way back there and give him a hand. The wildebeest is super keen to find a leopard this morning. And we are doing our absolute best. Rashawn, I attempt to watch out for snakes. A lot of the snakes that you might find here, namely the puff adders, are very camouflaged. So you just got to go with it, If I was fearful every step of a snake, I would never do my job. So I'm always aware, but I have many times in the past stepped right over puff adders, not even knowing they were there. And then the third person behind me is like, snake, snake. So I think I've been very lucky up until today. But it is also a bit cold this morning. So snakes are going to be very, very still and not moving. And if we did come across a puff adder, it would probably not even be able to strike. It would be just so cold sitting there in a curled ball. It would be very camouflaged. And the name puff adder comes from the fact that they make a very loud puffing, hissing sound when you get too close to them. So many times I've been walking and I'll stop because I hear the something like that. And you don't move. You just stand where you are and you try and identify in the vegetation where is the camouflage snake. And once you've found it, very easy to show everybody and then move off without any harm. The mist is slowly starting to burn off as the sun gets a little bit more altitude in the sky, but the grass is still very, very wet. I actually had to put my books away. I think I've done damage to two of my small books because of the moisture, but that's okay. It's not electronical. Books are meant to be used. I have to just remember to put them out in the sun a bit later. please feel free, ladies and gentlemen, send through your questions, hashtag Safari Live, or follow us on the YouTube stream. Let us know what's going on with you in your morning or your evening. Just having a quick little listen. No alarm calls. Lots of birds calling. Crested barbet, that loud. Romans, I don't think snakes hold a territory. There's this old, long-standing story that black mambas have a territory. It's possible that they have sort of a favored area, but they don't mark it any sort of way. And I mean, they'll just eat whatever snake comes into their area. But I don't think it's like, this is my territory. It's just a favored kind of habitat that they spend on. And then a lot of people also think that boomslang have got a territory, because often when you find one, you find two. But what it is probably you found one, you caught it, took it away, and the other one who's looking for its partner has followed the pheromone trail, and then you just have a second one. You think, oh my word, they've come back. This is their territory. They're just moving through looking for food. So if you've got food where you live, you're going to have snakes. It's not about territory. It's about rodents and frogs and other snakes, and that's what they're looking for. What you got there, Herbs? Huh? You're going to keep going. There he is, the man himself. Kev, I think that's exactly what I just said. Puff adders, not puff adders, but boomslang. They're renowned to, you have a boomslang, you remove it, and then there's another one, and you think it's the same one. But what I believe it is just its partner or another boomslang following the pheromone trail of the first one. Or there's a high amounts of food. It happens to be around people's houses. There's waste, there's rats, there's rodents, there's things living there that these snakes are looking for. And that's it. They're coming in for the food. So have a clean house with no rodents and you won't have any snakes. But they're very important for removing those pests from our environment. As we walk on the road for just a little bit to give our shoes some respite from the moisture. And Dion, I don't know of snakes biting large mammals. I mean, it's possible if they do get bitten that they might die, but you know, a lot of the antivenoms that get made actually get synthesized through horses. So they actually take horse blood and they build up antibodies through the size of the horse. So I think some of the snakes potentially don't have enough venom to kill a very large mammal, but also the mammals aren't really looking for the snakes. Like if a horse is or a zebra is moving along and there's a snake there, the horse isn't going to go, hello snake, let's try remove you from where you are. That's where most snake bites happen, is people removing snakes from where they are. Just leave the snake alone. Chances are he'll leave you alone. That's kind of the way it works out here. And a lot of animals, I suppose, just shy away from snakes. They know that they're dangerous. Leave them alone. Why play with something that could potentially kill you? But then honey badgers, they love them snakes. They will physically hunt them down and bite their heads off and then eat them whole. Even if they get bitten, they just coil up in little ball for a little while and they'll kind of look like they die and they come back again. So honey badger's got antibodies to defend itself against snake venom. So I'm sure a lot of these other animals potentially are able to also cope with it. Okay, well, while we make our way onto Treehouse Dam here looking for whatever we can find, let's go over to Brent and see if he's managed to find that elusive female.
Not yet. She's gone into a really difficult area that we're unable to get down into. Ooh. So she was with that impala there, so we think she's come down into this river system. And I mean, you can see how thick it is around here. And we heard a squirrel alarming somewhere in this area, so everything's gone quiet now. Just listening carefully. Listening for anything. Birds. Squirrels. Birds alarming upstream from where we are. Okay. I'm we're going to have to move. This is a very, very tough area to move through. Yes, it would be great to get bushwalk in here. So the road on the west of Quarantine, just to the south of the Bushbrae, is where she was last seen. There's a little 2-track that heads south along the edge of the drainage line that heads towards Philemon's Dip. And she disappeared into that little drainage system. We're going to try work our way along the edge of it the best we can without falling in any holes. So sorry guys, I need to concentrate quite carefully in this area. Okay, here's another little spot to look down into the abyss. No sign of her, unfortunately, down deep in the river system. Okay, well, it seems like James has been struggling to get to Chitwa all morning. Let's find out why.
Apparently the signal does not work at Chitwa today, unfortunately. That means that Jared and Conrad will not be having breakfast or supper tonight. They will be on a diet of stale bread and water. Now, in Conrad's case, that will be fine because he is of Afrikaans descent, which means rusks, which are basically stale biscuits, are a delicacy, but for Jared it's going to be a little bit harder. So there we have the trumpet section of our dawn orchestra. They are quiet now, you can see, they have ceased. They're blasting. And now, as a reward, they are searching for food in a pile of dung. What a reward, hey? When I used to sing in choirs, I'm very pleased that when we finished our performance of the Messiah or Mozart's Requiem, we came out and we were given quite nice wine or something like that, or sandwiches, and not a pile of dung in which to forage for ourselves. I would imagine that would discourage people from singing in choirs, or indeed people playing instruments in orchestras. I feel I've lost my way on the storytelling front somewhat this morning. Let's keep going. Sam, you've introduced a very interesting concept, that concept of the keystone species, and you say, what are the keystone species of Djuma? Well, there isn't one of Djuma, because Djuma is a very small patch in a much larger ecosystem. The keystone species, if there is one in this area, is the elephant. They are the keystone species. I think that their activities here, other than the human being, of course, but we as elephants, I think, have modified this landscape countless times over the last, 20 or 30 millennia, and I'm sure that it is they that are most responsible for the way the bush looks at the moment, other than people. I think we as human beings are having a massive effect on the landscape of the Sabi Sands. I know that Steve was talking earlier about artificial water points, and by giving artificial water to animals, sometimes in what's the word I'm looking for, in an apparently, what is the word? It begins with an A. Oh, come on. It's not ulterior, it's not altricial, it's...
Alien.
No, not alien. It's completely, I'm trying to say in a way that is kind. Egalitarian, it's the wrong word as well. Anyway, often the motivation for putting water in has been, oh, the poor animals, they need to drink. When in actual fact, the real motivation is, I need a water hole in front of my camp so that I can have animals when I sit on my deck, or my guests sit on my deck. both of which are probably as valid as each other from a conservation point of view, because they have immeasurably changed the movements of animals, possibly more so than elephants have. There we go. There is a duiker. A grey duiker or common duiker. Very pretty. We don't often get them on camera. They disappear most of the time. So while, yes, the motive for the water is ulterior, it's not the word that I was looking for. It'll come to me at some stage. So we've come back onto Djuma, back into sort of Tundi's haunt. I'm astounded that we haven't managed to identify that other leopard. Maybe she's a bit shy. Yeah, I suppose Siberia zumi, they could be. You say, are ants or termites not considered a keystone species? Yes, if you got rid of termites in this area, the landscape would change immeasurably. You're absolutely right, they would be. But you know, eventually if you start looking at it like that, and it's a good way of looking at it, any species that you remove from this area, and possibly some that we don't even know about, maybe there's some fungus or fungal species that grows and provides the trees with a communication network. Perhaps if we got rid of that, this would become a desert. Well, it wouldn't become a desert, there'd still be rain. But you know what I mean? There could easily be a species that we don't know about that's actually holding everything together. But even if you removed... Yes, I've got them, thanks guys. Massive pointing from behind at two battaliers. I'm just trying to get into a position and finish my story at the same time. Even if you remove, say, some butterfly species that you don't think is very important, it will have an effect. Now, we do see these battaliers quite often. They have a nest close by, and here they are just sunning themselves before heading off on their flight for food. Now, the bottom one's quite interesting because you can see that his wingtips stretch down below his short tail, which you will not find on other raptors. It's because their tails are so very short. They seem to be either having some kind of disagreement, they're not facing each other. He said something that's irritated her this morning. Perhaps he didn't pick his laundry up, dropped his towel on the floor after his morning shower, left his coffee cup in a puddle on the kitchen counter, you know, that sort of thing. What is that noise? Just be very quiet. I heard it what sounded like. It might be the crunching of a bone, but I'm not sure. We'll go forward and check, and then you just sneak slightly forward here. So there is a troop of mongoose that are doing exactly what these battalier are doing. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them through there. They're right through there. Can you see them there? You might be slightly too high where you're sitting. Just zoom in and I'll... There's a little termite mound down through there. So if you zoom straight in the middle of picture, go... Oh, no, they're much further in than that. Up a bit. Yeah, there.
Okay.
I think you're sitting too high up, though. Yeah, sort of. You can sort of see them there. They've just come out onto that termite mound and are having a little sunning before they too go out foraging, like their friends, the battalier. Alrighty, shall we press on, Seb, and see if we can't find something else? Right, I believe that Bushwalk is going to assist Brent. That will inspire Brent in his massively competitive nature into definitely finding the leopard. So let's go and find out from Steve where they are.
Here we are. Here we go. We're tracking. We've come all the way from Treehouse Dam. Here's leopard tracks. Female. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Here's the back pad. You can see the outer toe is level with the back pad. So it's definitely a female track. Male's tracks are quite wide. If I measured that, it'd probably be about 8 centimeters. This is very likely the same leopard that Brett is on, or trying to find, and we're not far. We're probably a few hundred meters away from where he suggested we pull in. So we're on the road now. We're moving quite quickly. These are definitely the tracks we're thinking, well, Herbie's thinking. This is Tundi from early this morning. Probably the same track that came through. Brett heard the alarm call this morning, or the soaring, and then they're with the cat there. We're thinking now, we're assuming it could be Tundi, but I would never say too much about what leopards are in the area. But we are moving quickly. First of all, to dry our very wet feet, and second of all, to get into the area where we might be able to assist these guys in finding this beautiful cat. I can see a vehicle up ahead there. They're coming around to potentially where this cat has come. Herbie has told us to stop. Leopard's going back, eh? Yeah, you saw those tracks you saw moments before. Here is the same tracks, but heading back the way we just came. So very important for us to be very aware and very alert. And Herbie, you reckon we just head back now, eh? Say again? Okay, so Herbie reckons she was probably walking down the road, and as we were walking up, she just jumped off the road here, and has probably just watched us walk past. So that is why tracking is so important. If you don't look at the tracks, you don't see where you're going. You know, you can't always see a leopard. You can't always just see them, but the tracks, they never lie. I've never known of a leopard to wipe behind it and clear up the tracks.